The Old Testament is a treasure chest overflowing with mighty miracles, some so famous that nearly everyone knows them by heart. We hear of Moses parting the Red Sea, Elijah calling down fire from heaven, Daniel in the lion's den, and the walls of Jericho tumbling down. But hidden among these grand stories are other wonders, small yet astonishing moments when God's power broke through quietly, powerfully, and often overlooked. Today, we travel back thousands of years to uncover 7 forgotten miracles that still whisper to us today. God cares about battles and borrowed tools, about kings and ordinary people, about mighty signs and gentle provisions. From a day when the sun stood frozen in the sky to an iron axe head that floated against all logic, these stories remind us that the same God who shaped seas and storms also shows up in borrowed jars of oil and conversations with donkeys. So lean in as we begin with a cosmic wonder, when Joshua, Israel's fearless leader, asked God to stop time itself. As Joshua fought the Amorite kings to protect the Gibeonites, daylight began to fade, threatening to steal their chance for victory. In a bold move that defied nature, Joshua prayed for the sun to stand still and the moon to halt, and the Bible says it did. An entire day stretched miraculously, and Israel conquered their enemies under an endless sun. Generations later, this passage still puzzles scholars and scientists, but to people of faith, it's a testament to bold prayers and a God who listens. That single day stands as a reminder that the Lord who commands the stars also answers when we dare to ask for the impossible. Now, from cosmic miracles to the curious, we come to Balaam's talking donkey. Often left out of Sunday school favorites, this bizarre moment shows how far God will go to open blind eyes. Balaam was a pagan prophet bribed by King Balak to curse the people of Israel. Though God warned him not to go, Balaam saddled his donkey anyway, determined to collect his reward. But God's angel blocked the path ahead, invisible to Balaam but not to his loyal donkey. 3 times the donkey turned aside to avoid the angel's drawn sword, and 3 times Balaam struck the poor animal in anger. Finally, the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and it asked Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" Instead of falling over in shock, Balaam argues with his donkey as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Only then does God open Balaam's eyes, and he sees the angel standing in his path, sword gleaming, ready to kill him for his stubbornness. This unusual miracle reminds us that sometimes we can be so blinded by our own plans and pride that we miss God's warnings right in front of us. And sometimes, when we refuse to listen, God can use anything, even a stubborn donkey, to speak truth and steer us back on track. In a world where we're always rushing ahead, maybe we all need to pause and listen for the unexpected voices that God may use to wake us up. Next comes a moment from the life of Samson, the mighty judge famous for his long hair and supernatural strength. Most people remember his final moments pushing down the pillars or his betrayal by Delilah, but tucked in the book of Judges is a miracle that reveals the heart of God in a different way. After Samson slays 1,000 Philistines with nothing but a donkey's jawbone, exhaustion and thirst overpower him. For all his strength, he is just a man, weary, broken, and desperate. He cries out to God, fearing he will die of thirst after such a great victory. And what does God do? He splits open a hollow place in Lehi, and water gushes out, reviving his exhausted servant. Samson drinks and his strength returns. This moment is easy to skip over, yet it's a gentle lesson that no matter how strong we think we are, we all have moments of weakness where we need living water. Our victories can drain us, and our battles can leave us empty. But when we cry out in honest desperation, God provides refreshment in the most unexpected ways, sometimes even from the dry jawbone of our struggles. It's a quiet miracle that whispers to us today, your strength is never really yours alone. Every drop of life comes from the one who sees you in your weariness and answers when you call. And who could forget the humble floating axe head, a tiny wonder that proves God cares even about what seems trivial. The prophet Elisha was mentoring young men eager to build a bigger meeting space by the Jordan River. As they chopped wood, one man's borrowed iron axe head flew off and sank beneath the water. In that moment, panic struck. Iron was costly, and losing a borrowed tool meant shame and debt. The young man cried out to Elisha, who asked, "Where did it fall?" Elisha threw a stick into the river at that spot, and against the laws of nature, the iron floated to the surface. What seems like an insignificant miracle actually shows us that no loss is too small for God's notice. He is the God of parted seas and cosmic battles, yet he also cares when your tool sinks, when your debt looms, when your heart fears the shame of small failures. He meets us in muddy rivers and lifts what was lost back into our hands. In a world obsessed with grand gestures and massive signs, this gentle story reminds us to invite God into the ordinary moments, because He is Lord of every detail. Hidden in the pages of Kings is another stunning sign, the day when time itself turned backward. King Hezekiah lay dying when the prophet Isaiah told him to set his affairs in order. But Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed with bitter tears, and God listened. Not only did God promise 15 more years of life, Hezekiah asked for a sign to be sure. So God gave him an impossible one. He made the shadow on the sundial move backward 10 steps. Imagine standing in the courtyard watching the shadow of the sun slip the wrong way across the stones. Science can't explain it, and yet there it is, recorded in Scripture as proof that the one who made time can bend it for His purposes. Sometimes we feel we're running out of time, that the days slip too fast, or that hope is lost. But the story of Hezekiah's sign reminds us that every second belongs to God, who can redeem wasted years, restore what's lost, and move the shadows backward if He so chooses. When life feels like it's running out, trust the God who holds your days in His hands. Now we come to Gideon, the hesitant hero who needed a sign that God was truly with him. We remember the fleece he laid out to test God's promise, but there's another miracle that sparked Gideon's courage long before the battle with 300 men. Gideon was threshing wheat in secret, hiding from the Midianite oppressors when the angel of the Lord appeared to him, calling him a mighty warrior. But Gideon was anything but mighty. He was fearful and full of doubts. To prove the angel was truly sent by God, Gideon prepared an offering, meat and unleavened bread. He placed it on a rock under an oak tree. Then the angel of the Lord touched the offering with the tip of his staff, and suddenly, fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and bread in a flash. In that instant, Gideon realized he had seen the Lord face to face, and his fear shifted into the fear of the Lord, a holy awe that changed a timid farmer into the leader Israel needed. It's a quiet but striking moment, a rock bursting with divine fire, a fearful heart ignited into boldness. We often want our burning bush moment, our unmistakable sign, but Gideon's story shows that sometimes, the spark is right where you least expect it, in an ordinary meal, in an act of simple faith, in the place you're hiding. When God sets it aflame, it transforms you from the inside out. Gideon's hidden miracle reminds us that no one is too small to lead, too weak to be called, or too afraid to be used. All it takes is one touch of fire to turn fear into faith. And so we arrive at the seventh miracle, one that speaks to every person who has ever faced an empty jar and a mountain of debt. In 2 Kings, we find a widow whose husband, one of the prophets, has died, leaving her with unpaid debts so large that her sons are about to be taken as slaves. Desperate, she cries out to Elisha for help. He asks her a simple question, "What do you have in your house?" She replies, "Nothing, except a small jar of oil." It wasn't much, but it was something, and God delights in using our almost nothings to show His overflowing abundance. Elisha tells her to gather as many empty jars as she can from her neighbors, not just a few, but as many as possible. She and her sons shut the door behind them, and she begins to pour her tiny jar of oil. Miraculously, the oil keeps flowing until every jar in the house is filled to the brim. When there are no more empty jars left, the oil stops flowing, but by then, she has enough to sell, pay her debts, and live on what remains. This overlooked miracle reveals a divine principle. When we bring our little to God in faith, He multiplies it beyond what we could ask or imagine. He honors hidden obedience, private faith, and the courage to pour when it seems like there's not enough. In our own lives, we may feel like our jars are empty and our debts too large, but the widow's endless oil reminds us, nothing is truly empty in God's hands. He fills, He multiplies, and He sets captives free. So there you have it, 7 forgotten miracles hidden like treasure within the pages of the Old Testament. Some defy the cosmos, like the sun standing still and time turning backward. Others seem almost small, an axe head that floats, a meal ignited on a rock, oil that refuses to run out. Yet each miracle is a sign that no prayer is too bold, no worry too small, no life too ordinary for the God of wonders. These stories invite us to look for the hidden hand of God in our own daily lives, in our bold prayers, our ordinary losses, our desperate cries for help. The same God who heard Joshua, who opened Balaam's donkey's mouth, who fed Samson in his thirst, who lifted the axe head from the riverbed, who rewound the shadow for Hezekiah, who lit a fire for Gideon, and who filled the widow's jars. That same God is still at work today. Maybe your miracle is hidden, waiting for you to see it. Maybe your small prayer will unlock a flood of blessing. Maybe your impossible moment will become your testimony. So keep seeking, keep knocking, keep asking, for the God of the Old Testament is the God of today. If these hidden miracles inspired you, tell us in the comments which one opened your eyes. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Bible Storyteller for more timeless stories that remind us of the power and presence of God in every chapter of our lives. Until next time, stay curious, stay blessed, and keep searching for the miracles hidden in plain sight.